Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with my TBR video for the one readathon to rule them all. This is a readathon all about reading fantasy books, so I am very excited to be participating. It was created and hosted by Ashley from Don't Have a Degree in Reading, and her co-hosts are James Chatham, Beck's Books, Chris Bookish Cauldron, Allie Evans, Read and Find Out, and That Bookish Gamer. I will link Ashley's announcement video down below for all of the details and challenges. Also, apologies, my cat was crying, so I had to leave the door open while filming, so you're probably going to see him throughout the video. I hope that's okay. The readathon starts on April 29th and it runs until May 12th. The first challenge is to read a fantasy book written by a POC author. My first option for that is Furthermore by Tahara Mafi. This is a middle grade fantastical kind of story, and I've been meaning to read this for a long time now. It was getting a lot of buzz a year or so ago, and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. I think that Tahara Mafi's writing style is going to be really suited to this kind of magical Alice in Wonderland type of story, and from what I remember, the main character is colorless, but she lives in a very bright and brilliant world, and I believe she goes on a quest to rescue her father. I've heard pretty good things about this one, and this cover is just gorgeous, and I'm really excited to get into it. My other option for this challenge is The Ring and the Crown by Melissa de la Cruz. I don't actually know too much about this one. I know it's kind of a political intrigue, fantastical romance sort of thing. I've heard this is just a really addicting and fun read, and I've kind of been in the mood for this, and just looking at the back of the book, one of our main characters has not one, not two, but 3 Ys in her name, so you know it's gonna be good. The second challenge is to read a fantasy book with a POC main character. By the way, some of my books can fit into multiple challenges, but I did pick at least one for every challenge. So one of my options for this one is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. This is the first in a trilogy, and I've heard really good things about the series overall from people who tend to enjoy similar fantasy books to me, and I'm really excited. I have the whole trilogy and I've just never gotten around to reading it. And from what I've heard, this main character and the whole cast of characters are people of color, and I believe it is based off of Spain. I think the setting is Spanish fantasy inspired, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. My other option is the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chima. I don't know exactly what book I will be reading because I am currently reading The Grey Wolf Throne, which is the 3rd book. And in case I finish that one before the readathon, I could go on to the next one, but it's a pretty long book, so I will probably still be reading that when the readathon starts. The third challenge is to read a fantasy book under 300 pages. And once again, I have 2 choices that I am really excited to get to, and because they're so short, I might end up reading both of these. And the first one is The Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. If you can see the buy one get one half price sticker, I actually picked this up while I was studying abroad. I was in Waterstones, and one of the booksellers was telling me how amazing this was, and she really recommended it, and I was already getting a book from the buy one half off table, so of course I was convinced. And I don't actually know too much about this book, and this book comes in at 228 pages, and I really don't know much about the story. I think the girl lives in a forest, and it's a little bit magical, and I don't know what else, and I don't really need to know too much more than that. I'm excited. My other option is Shadow Spinner by Susan Fletcher, and this is, I think, a 1001 Nights retelling or sort of inspired story, and this one is 217 pages. I had forgotten I had this, and then I was looking through my bookshelf at books to fit the challenges, and I found this again, and I read the back. I'm like, this sounds amazing. And basically this is from the perspective of the girl who helps Shahrazad find the stories to tell, I think. So I'm really looking forward to this one. The next challenge is to read a fantasy book over 1,000 pages, and I don't actually know if bind-ups count. I feel like usually in readathon challenges they aren't supposed to count, but I'm gonna count it because I think I've actually read the only fantasy novel I have that's over 1,000 pages, and this is the bind-up for The Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. I think this is kind of a Welsh version of the Chronicles of Narnia, or that kind of fantasy story with a group of kids who kind of find themselves involved in this fantasy world, and they have to keep going back and solving problems there. It sounds very uninteresting when I describe it like that, but I remember loving this when I was little, but I don't remember much about the plot. And this bind-up is how many pages? This bind-up is 1,082 pages. I don't know if I'm gonna try and read the whole thing, but I've been meaning to start rereading this series for a long time, so I decided to use this readathon as an opportunity to actually do that. So I'm definitely planning to get to at least the first book in this bind-up, but hopefully continuing on. The fifth challenge is to read a fantasy book that is a standalone, and for that one I'm going with Sun and Moon, Ice and Snow by Jessica Day George. This is a retelling of East of the Sun, West of the Moon. I think that's the name of the fairy tale. I don't read too many retellings of that story, so I'm really excited to go into this one. And I've had really good luck with Jessica Day George's books before. Like, I liked her Princess of the Midnight Ball series, and I'm really loving her Dragon Slippers trilogy. I have the third book yet to read, but I really like her writing. I really like the way she does fantasy, so I am excited to get into this one. I know we're getting into spring now, but I'm always a fan of winter-themed books. Challenge number 6 is to read a fantasy book by a non-English speaking author. And I thought I didn't have one, but then I found my copy of Marisi, the first book in the Red Abbey Chronicles by Maria Turchyaninoff. I should have looked that up before I made this video. I'm usually good about doing that. This is a fantasy book that is, I believe, inspired by like Eastern European folklore. I've seen really good reviews for this one. I don't remember what language it was translated from. This is actually an ARC copy, so if I love this, I'm definitely going to buy like the finished copy of this book. I remember the synopsis kind of reminded me of the His Fair Assassin series by Robin LaFavors, which I really love, so I'm excited to get into this one. The 7th challenge is to read a fantasy book set in a non-European setting. And for that one, I plan to read Flora's Dare by Isabeau S. Wills. This fantasy series is set in like the California region when that was, I believe, controlled by Mexico. And there are also a lot of Aztec influences in this book, and I really loved that first one, but I haven't picked up the second one, and it's kind of a complicated storyline, so I want to read this one before I forget too much of what happened in the first book. And finally, the 8th and last challenge is to read a fantasy book with LGBTQIA+ representation. And the book I chose for that one is And I Darken by Kirsten White. This is a female-centric kind of retelling or version of the Vlad the Impaler story, and it follows a female character named Vlada. And from what I've heard from reviews and other people talking about this book, her brother is gay. And there might be other representation in this book as well, but I at least know that, and I have heard such good things about this book. I am so ready for some more female anti-heroes, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this book. I have been meaning to pick it up for so long. Okay everybody, so that is my TBR full of possible options for what I'm going to read for the one readathon to rule them all. Let me know if you guys are participating as well and what you plan to read. If you read and loved any of these books I talked about, please let me know that as well. I will see you guys soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!